It's opening day for vaccines. Every adult in Colorado is eligible. Can't just show up for shots, though. We'll take on your questions about open season for vaccines. There is talk of increasing regulations on guns like the one used in the Boulder shooting, which was not a so-called assault rifle. Colorado has seen $2 billion in sports betting in a year, yet the state didn't hit it big. Years ago, a family made a reservation for our Friday Good News segment for the day when their young son would finally be cancer-free. I'd like you to meet someone. Next. Imagine if I told you late last year that vaccines would be open to everyone in Colorado beginning of April. You wouldn't have believed that. Not to say the process has been perfect, or that we don't now have a huge logjam of people in line for these shots. But we're closer to the end of this faster than was expected. Anusha Roy looks at how Coloradans are hunting for vaccine appointments and getting around barriers.
Let's start with getting to a mass vaccination site. And what happens if you don't have a car? Can you walk or bike to your appointment? Well, the state health department said logistically they would prefer people come by car, but they also don't want that to be a barrier. So if a person has an appointment, shows up without a car, they will still get in and get their vaccine. Another viewer asked, how are second doses guaranteed if you're able to snag one of the leftover shots at the end of the day? Providers typically schedule your second dose when you get the first one, and each dose is mirrored, guaranteeing your second shot. If your second dose is not scheduled, you can let the state know through their COVID concerns page online. We got a couple of questions from truck drivers saying that they're on the road a lot and they don't always know exactly where they will be geographically, and that makes it tough to schedule appointments. The answer here is honestly not clear cut, but we do know who wants to help. The Colorado Motor Carriers Association is working through these kinds of hurdles and is asking you to call them so that they can help you out. Another question we got for truck drivers is, do you have to show that you live in Colorado? The answer is no. Again, the state said that could be a barrier for some people, and they want to eliminate those kinds of obstacles. The health systems did ask that people get their second doses from the same place they get their first because of what we talked about, the mirrored doses. You know, they're just trying to secure their allocations, make sure they've got enough for people coming back for that second dose. And we talked to the state about moving into phase 2 when Johnson & Johnson, which is the one-dose vaccine, is having manufacturing issues. And they said they made this decision based off of the allocation from the feds. But that is primarily made up of Pfizer and Moderna coming into the state right now. So they still feel like overall they're going to be getting enough doses, Kyle, into Colorado to stick to the schedule they've been talking about.
That's what I was curious about, Anusha, because it seemed like so much of this quick expansion was predicated on the idea of J&J flowing into the system, but the state thinks that they can roll as is.
Yeah, and so they're obviously keeping really close tabs, and we asked, you know, how much of J&J are you expecting to come in to the state? And so they're expecting next week around 81,000 doses, and that was because it was manufactured in a different plant, not the one that's having the issue, so they're feeling good about that. But then the following week, they expect that allocation of J&J to drop down to around 30,000, but again, they said, you know, that's kind of up in the air. It kind of just depends on the manufacturing issues, but again, they keep going back to the Pfizer and the Moderna allocations, feeling really good about that to help them keep getting these vaccines out.
We certainly will be watching. Hey, speaking of, reminder, your next friends have you covered through the weekend. We news there, Anusha in the mornings, Steve Staker in the evenings. Thank you, Anusha. Yeah. We're closing in on nearly 18% of our state population done with their shots. Almost 686,000 people are waiting on a second dose. It's almost 12% of the population. And at your request, we grayed out the area that represents the 20% of Colorado that is not going to get the vaccine because they're too young. The rise in cases is leading to more hospitalizations. This is, I wouldn't say it's concerning, but it's clearly something we have to be aware of. 335 patients right now. It's up 19 patients from yesterday. It's up 16 from this time last week. We need to watch it because you also see the positivity rate. That was at 4.9% yesterday. It's been up a couple days this week. Our 7-day average is now 4.8%. It's knocking on the door of the 5% mark, where public health experts start to get concerned about the virus spreading easily in the community. So we'll watch those variants, we'll watch case numbers, and we'll watch hospitalizations in the coming weeks. when we recently posed the question, should there be an adult version of Safe to Tell so people could report concerns about potential future violence, a company got in touch to say, yeah, we already exist. Report It is an app that allows you to directly contact some law enforcement with your tip. So you could report concerns about somebody with a gun directly to the ATF. If you've got a tip about elder abuse or child abuse, the app uses your location to help find the agency that's the proper place for your tip.
We display information that's relevant to the organization. We'll provide the phone number, we'll provide the website, we'll provide the Facebook page, the Twitter page, all that information so the user can say, well, I can't submit a tip, but I know how to get in touch with this organization no matter where I am. If you can do this by not calling 911, you're going to get a lot more people involved in the process.
At this point, no law enforcement in Colorado allows you to use the app to directly report the tip, like without leaving the app. So what the app would do is provide you with non-emergency contact information for the pertinent agency. Democratic Congressman Ed Perlmutter from Colorado wants stricter rules on the type of pistols that shoot rifle rounds, like the weapon used in the mass shooting at the Boulder grocery store last week. Representative Perlmutter, along with Representative Joe Neguse and other members of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, sent a letter to President Biden this week. They want Biden to issue an executive order to expand the National Firearms Act to include those types of weapons because they're concealable and they're able to shoot higher capacity rounds. Yet they're still regulated as pistols. We talked last week about the Ruger AR-556 used by the Boulder shooter. Does not look like what some would consider a handgun. Legally speaking, handguns defined as anything with a barrel less than 12 inches long. This 556 also comes in a rifle form, shoots the same ammo. The legislators involved in this want the Biden administration and the ATF to start regulating stabilizing braces as well. Again, that's one of those things that you see when you look at one of these weapons. It's an accessory that's added to a firearm to improve accuracy. There are gun owners with disabilities who rely on those accessories to be able to shoot. We asked if new rules on stabilizing braces might have some privacy issues.
Some in the disability community have been concerned about that, and that's a legitimate question. I think the safety of the public probably prevails in that question if you try to balance the two. It's something that has to be considered in the rulemaking that the ATF we ask that they undertake.
Congressman Perlmutter was also involved in the push to fully regulate bump stocks. ATF added some new rules after a bump stock was used in the Las Vegas shooting in 2017. The majority of Colorado's crime victims do not get the public attention and the public support that comes with a mass tragedy like the shooting in Boulder. And that is why your Word of Thanks microgiving campaign this week is supporting the Victims Assistance Fund, which is used by victims advocates statewide. It was down $20,000 in funding this year, and you have raised $23,000 for it since Wednesday. Text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. I'll send you that link to join me in donating. Victims advocates are the ones who apply for these quick release funds on behalf of their clients to pay for things like grocery cards or to repair property damage. Every dollar that we can put in there together as a community is going to help somebody or some family that is facing a terrible moment in their life. When it comes to sports gambling in Colorado, the state needs people to bust in order for the state finances to win. So who's coming out ahead? We met Cannon at age 4 as he was fighting cancer. He wanted to come on next to announce his good news when he was cancer-free.
Are you sure it's gonna see me?
Friday's good news has become the best news. Next. It used to be every time Colorado needed money for something, everybody would ask us, what about the pot tax? We even had a segment here called, What About the Pot Tax? Now, people are asking whether Colorado's needs could be funded through sports betting money. Maybe we'll even have a segment called, I want the name to be a surprise. Here's Marshall Zellinger.
the overs, the unders.
Let's get the most important question out of the way.
The upsets.
Would Democratic State Representative Alec Garnett have voted yes on his own idea of legalizing sports gambling?
Can we not do the tackle?
If he knew how many ads would follow?
Yes. There's no doubt that people are frustrated and annoyed by the billboards, the ads, and all of the advertising.
And based on some feedback from viewers, there's also confusion on the money the state earns from people betting on sports.
It's not as much money as I think people think because it's not based on how many dollars are bet.
Nope. Put simply, Colorado wins when you lose. If you win your bet, Colorado gets nothing. Between the first sports bet on May 1st, 2020 through February, $1.84 billion has been bet on sports. Gamblers won back $1.72 billion, meaning overall sports bettors lost and casinos made $115 million. That's not what Colorado gets. That's the gross amount. Not gross because so much was lost. Gross meaning gross versus net. The net casino proceeds from you losing your bets is $43 million. Colorado's cut comes from that, which totals almost $4.5 million. And most of the money, not all, is meant to fund the Colorado Water Plan.
Even when the Nuggets lose ever so often, which isn't going to happen anymore with that Gordon trade, or more likely when the Rockies only win 20 games because of the terrible Arenado trade, that don't feel too bad, that your dollars that you lost are still going to go towards causes that you care a lot about, which is protecting our water and our public lands in the state that we love.
These are projects like increasing storage, agricultural projects around conservation, land use, drought planning.
Becky Mitchell is director of the Colorado Water Conservation Board, which expects to get the first chunk of money for water projects in the fall.
When Colorado Water wins, we all win.
Except for the people who lost, because without their money, Colorado Water can't win.
Trying to do the math of money bet versus money paid out versus money lost isn't as simple as it should be, because the sports betting apps and casinos, you'll know from those commercials, are offering free bets and other free promotions, and you have to subtract that money from the equation, so the apps are sucking people in with promotions that don't necessarily benefit Colorado from a tax perspective, Kyle.
I've seen that ad one or several million times. Thank you, Marshall.
A beautiful Good Friday. Temperatures 15 to 20 degrees warmer than average. 74 in Denver, 80s on the map in southern Colorado. With high pressure anchored over the region and the storm track to the north, limited moisture will be available for showers, let alone afternoon cloud cover. So we do expect temperatures to soar into record territory by Sunday. Fair skies, calm, quiet tonight, low 41. Tomorrow, highs near 80 degrees, lots of sunshine. We could see 80 on Sunday and Monday. The record on Sunday is 76. I think we're going to break that. And the next chance for rain and some cooler windy weather is Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Enjoy.
What a gorgeous day. And you know, it is not just the stormy weather that stirs the poetic passions of our resident wordsmith meteorologist, Corey Reppenhagen.
Corey Reppenhagen is on the weather beat.
A thaw for your mind. 80s are in the forecast. Soon, complaints of heat.
That was Corey Reppenhagen on the weather beat.
In April 2021, you ring that warrior bell at Children's and come on over to 9 News.
A young man from Brighton made plans to share his good news with you firsthand a year and a half ago. Guess who's here?
I can cancer pussy.
Good news, years in the making. Next. This 243rd edition of your Friday Good News features a first. A family that made a reservation for it 18 months ago.
Got a message the other day that stopped me in my tracks. James wrote in, "You better keep doing your Good News Friday for another year and a half. We will be announcing that our 4-year-old son is cancer-free in April of 2021. Cannon has lymphoblastic leukemia. Their family motto is kicking cancer's tushy. Cannon, you keep doing that. And in April 2021, you ring that warrior bell at Children's and come on over to 9 News. We'll let you announce your good news yourself."
Are you sure it's gonna see me?
Let's see.
Not close enough. Not close enough. Oh, I got you there. What's your good news?
I'm done with treatment. And can you see anything?
No.
Because I'm covering my kid with it.
Cannon Wood, age 6.
I kick Cancer's tushy.
Kicker of Cancer's Tushy.
I'm gonna do something. Cannibal!
A battle he has fought for more than half his young life.
We sat down the day he got diagnosed and said, how do we make it so that he's not defined by this?
Cannon's parents, Jamie and Joe, told him he was getting superhero medicine. Even superheroes and their parents have difficult days.
Some of those things, sitting in his bed at night going, hey kid, we got to go to the hospital in the morning to get your treatment. And him crying, I don't want to go.
The treatment that killed the cancer took his immune system with it. Cannon's family spent years practicing the precautions that we all adopted in the pandemic.
You weren't allowed in our house during flu season if you had a sniffle.
Which made this last year a relief.
It actually made it super easy.
Cannon's doctors were comfortable with him going to kindergarten. A world of masks, hand sanitizer, and distance.
It's very sad to say, but COVID was a blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise. Sound like any superheroes you know?
I hope that he can inspire others to live in the moment and find some good news out of everything.
Cannon's parents specifically asked that I thank you. Each time we mentioned Cannon and gave an update, they read all of your online comments, your encouragement, your prayers, and they meant the world. The most Colorado thing that we saw today is Denver donating bison. Given 13 bison from the city's herd at Denver Mountain Park to the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes in Oklahoma, giving 1 bison to the Tall Bull Memorial Council in Colorado. First time the city has done this. Usually they auction off bison at Genesee Park every year to control the size of the herd. But through 2030, the city is now committed to donating bison to American Indian tribes and nonprofits that'll reintroduce them on tribal lands. I would not be here right now without him. Word about his departure from 9 News next. I wouldn't be here without him, my basement specifically. Bill Boyer joined 9 News before I was born. He would appreciate me saying that. And Bill retires today. He is our remote content systems manager, which just means that anywhere in Colorado or in the world that we want to make TV and beam it to you, Bill is the man who figures out how it's possible. If Bill could not do it or fix it, it could not be done and could not be fixed. We, you and me, we value the connection that we have through the magic of television. Bill Boyer was the magician that you never met. Broncos games to political debates to creating a television studio in a basement with one quite inept operator. Bill loved a challenge, and we gave him a few. Bill, thank you. All the best. Kathy writes in, says she's a 59-year-old with a couple of high-risk conditions, frustrated she's not going to be able to get a shot now that everybody's in the pool. Or Karen, I'm sorry, not Kathy. Karen, focus on the hospital providers for now. Re-up with them. A bunch of them are sticking with Phase 1B for a couple of weeks instead of just moving on to open season. Dig says, I just don't get the calming feeling when you're in the stuffy and cold 9 News studio. How'd you know it's cold?